All right, so this is Cade Dean with ASM6 for CSC252. This was quite a fun project. I ended up making just a little animation here, and I'll go ahead and show it off, that shows happy holidays and has two little pieces of snow that fall at random intervals and at random starting points on their own. And they're each represented individually in memory. So yeah, let's get into the kind of deep dive of how I do this. So I used the kind of same starting boilerplate as given to us in the template file. And I kind of jump into my main here and I declare my two snow pieces as S0 and S1. And after I do that, or actually S0, S1 for snow piece 1, and then S2, S3 for snow piece 2. With S0 for snow piece 1 being the actual location that it's at, or the actual address, with S1 being the previous color that it overwrote. And, you know, the same thing respectively for S2 and S3. So yeah, so I do that and then I jump into my loop, and within my loop, I set the display to red, and this is kind of a basic function here, and I'll just demo it real quick. All it does is it loops through from the start of the display address to the end of the display address in multiples of 4 and sets each word to be red, the value of red here. And this was also fun to tinker with the previously forbidden functions like Louis and li and molt. So yeah, and I think I use break if greater than or equal to at some point. But yeah, so we run that set display to red function, and then this is where we call our move snow function, and this kind of moves the snow along, as you can see in the background, and respawns it if needed. So we're starting here by checking to see if the snow exists, and if it does, then we'll jump down here, but if it doesn't, we'll go ahead and create that piece of snow and spawn it at a random place along the top of the bitmap display. So once it's spawned, it will then get a random number from 0 to 4 for the first piece of snow, and then multiply that random number by 256, and then move the address of the snow pixel by that resulting amount. 256 being the interval needed to move down along the bitmap display. So yeah, and we're of course using that S0 or the S1 register as the sort of temporary previous placeholder register to fill back in whatever colors you might have overwrote. So yeah, so from there, if there is no piece of, or yeah, this is also where we're doing a lot of the checking here with the BGEs. And if that snow piece, after having that new address calculated, is potentially going to go off the screen, then we're going to set them back to 0. Both of those snow variables back to 0, so it then is forced to respawn on the next kind of loop. So that's how they kind of infinitely fall down. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. And we're doing the same thing for the second piece of snow here. But the only thing that's different is that we're moving it from an interval of 0 to 6 rows down, which just kind of causes one piece to move a lot faster than the other, as you can see here. So this one is moving quite a bit faster because we're allowing it to move at a higher or potentially a higher random interval. So yeah, and then we're doing the same thing, checking to see if it exists. If it doesn't, then we'll make it. And if it's going to go off, then we cause it to respawn. So that's kind of the hardest code to understand here. But moving on, we then, after moving our snow, sleep for 500 milliseconds, and then we move our snow, and then we write happy on the screen. And this is done through this function here, which loads the color light blue, loads the base address of the display, and then very painstakingly updates each individual word in from the address with the respective color needed to spell out happy. And of course, after, we're just jumping returning. So from there, we are then waiting another 500 milliseconds, and then we are moving our snow again, and then we're writing holidays. So this is done down here, and this is pretty much the same as writing happy. We are loading the color light green, loading the base address of the display, and then properly updating the pixels from that base display offset to write out holidays. So yeah, from there, we are then jumping kind of into a loop here to make it less jarring. So Happy Holidays is not constantly flashing on the screen. We are setting T8 to 0, and we are then allowing this loop to go 5 times before we jump back to the start of our main loop, which just makes it so the snow moves, but the Happy Holidays stays on the screen. So you can see how it draws, and then it waits 5 ticks, and then it resets. So that just kind of helps with making it more legible and not as sort of spastic. So yeah, that's kind of that's the bulk of the code. I hope this was a good enough explanation. This was definitely a lot of fun to do and use new instructions for and stuff. So yeah, happy holidays.